YouTube watchers. I feel like we want to do something menacing because we're on Warriors, and that's
Warriors. Warriors.
I am Lucky Sixes. This is Hyper G, and I am very cold, so I'm wrapped up in my.
Yeah.
It's nice. I call it a snuggly, but I don't think it's called that.
Just a silly outfit.
Yeah, it's a hoodie. It's an oversized hoodie. Is essentially what it is, but I don't know. Anyway, we are here for Warriors of the Dark Gods. Really a menacing intro that is. The reviews, we've done many up till now, and do check out all the others.
We've had to check all of them out, even if you haven't. So you should, just so it means you're equal with us.
For sure. So like, share, subscribe, and press the notifications so you can see all of the things that are coming out, the videos that are coming out, and go back and check everything that we've done ever. Let's crack on to what we are here for today. Though
I had to mute myself, but yeah, I mean, really.
The review of the Warriors of the Dark Gods 2022.
Can you imagine if people literally paused there and went back to day one to start
saw
watching
everything, and then now I'm ready. I'm ready for Warriors of the Dark Gods.
And by that time, 2022 is long gone. Anyway, yeah. Carry on.
As always, with all the reviews, we're going to just talk about the changes, and there are quite a few in this actually, so it's worth checking out. But we won't be talking about the big tactics of the army or like a deep dive into it, and anything that's not changed, we're basically going to skip past. So here we go. For Warriors,
it's a big lot of blue text on the first lot of changes.
To be fair, we get straight
this will explain a lot though,
and stuck in with the favors of the Dark Gods, and really this is the biggest. They've gone through a not complete overhaul, but quite a drastic one. As with all the books, this is sort of like looking at trying to simplify a lot of things, and there will be ramifications of that. But yeah, so. On to Envy as the first favour that gets changed, and rolls for charge range, pursuit, overrun, distance of units with more than half their models with this favour are subject to maximised. That used to be a unit gives swift ride and some rerolls to one and stuff like blah blah blah. So it's basically maximised, and as we know from the rulebook, maximised is stacked. So if you already have maximised, then whoop-de-doo. And if you don't, you get maximised. So it makes things quicker, basically, without all the reroll into hit or you're on ones or
I mean, there'll be some mathematics on whether rerolling ones is as good as getting maximised. I mean, I haven't worked that out, but I think maximised has got to be better, hasn't it? Because
I think so.
Or you could roll twos and not get rerolls and fail the charge.
But so essentially, how this affects the army is that the cavalry-based units will increase in points, and everything else it'll either stay the same or reduce because it's not run as much as it was before. So
I think even for the units that didn't have Swift Stride, it's a good thing to have because it means you do get Swift Stride on infantry.
Sure. So basically, it's a simplification. I like that as well. It gives you one thing, and that's one thing to remember, which is very useful. But there's certain things it improves even more. So that's what we'll touch upon there. The Gluttony has a big boost actually in that it's. It used to be if you were on the winning side and then chose not to pursue, but then but stayed where you were, and there was only certain things, then you get +1 strength. Now it's if you're on the winning side of combat, you get
whether you charged or not.
Yeah, +1 strength. Simple, easy, effective, and actually better. So I can see Gluttony being used quite a bit. And for the most part, that's one of the biggest favours that gets increased in points. So look out for that as well. Greed stays the same. Lust loses Strider, but otherwise stays the same. So
doesn't allows it to get cheaper.
Yeah, well, that's one of the big things. So Pride stays the same. Sloth is a change. So it used to be +1 resilience, and if you moved more than 10 inches, then you lost that. But otherwise, you or if you or if you were gigantic, it's 6 inches. But again, simplified down, -1 to wound, which is very similar to +1 resilience. But actually, I think works all the time as well. So even on range and things like that, from what I can see.
Yeah. No, it does.
And when the model's unit declares a charge, you lose this until the next player's turn. So basically, you use it for. So don't charge with them, or if you do, make sure you're going to win. So it's a simplification of it. Makes it slightly worse because you were able to charge less than 10
small
inches,
distances,
so chaff and things like that. But then it's not really going to affect you against them. But there's going to be some instances where someone just runs up in 1 inches away from you with their Death Star, and then you have to charge them or not get charged or whatever. So there's going to be some instances where that's worse, but overall it's basically the same.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it stops people from moving 9.9 inches away and still keeping that.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think it's.
I guess
it's cool.
You could argue that in some instances, -1 to wound is better than +1 resilience, because if they're wounding you on 2s, if their strength, if your res 4 goes to 5, so if their res 8 and then goes down to 7, there is some instances, if they're strength 8, sorry, where you can't be wounded on better than a 3-up, essentially.
I don't think you've explained that the way you intended to.
I don't think so.
But you're definitely right.
But that end sentence is correct.
Yeah, I stopped listening.
Yeah, you will only be wounded on a 3+, never on a 2+.
Stop. You're right.
Wrath has changed. In that you only get lightning reflexes. Now that's a simple change, and it's much nicer than what would happen before, because you always, well, not always, but half the time forgot about the +1 to hit when you come back.
Yeah.
However, you do lose the +1 agility, and for me that's quite a big one, because a lot of stuff that agility is so important for a lot of things.
I do think though the fact that they've lost the +1 agility means that Wrath didn't get more expensive.
Yes,
if they kept the agility without the comeback of the +1 to hit and return.
Yeah, and actually in some instances got cheaper as well. So it's a shame because the +1 agility is such a big buff. However, if it's because of the cost of the +1 to hit back, then fair enough. It is what it is. And it only gives a buff now, which is nice.
Yeah.
So we'll see that as well. So that's. Already we've been talking 8 minutes. It's a big change in the first thing straight away from the favour in the Warriors.
But understanding these changes will set you up nicely for the rest of the book.
For sure. So study this quite a lot. And as we've said, actually, in terms of points cost and things, you'll see that it's only Envy and Gluttony have got more expensive. So actually, the simplification has helped you out a little bit. No further changes on the second or third pages. We go down to the Hereditary, and I believe that's said the same as well. I'm just checking the casting
just
value.
Just trying to trick you with the blue text.
Yeah, always. Over into special items, and as always, we will not mention magic attacks has been taken away because it's been added in the rulebook. That's not something we mention on these reviews at all. And working our way down to Zealot's banner, a bit of a change in how it works. It is much more complicated, which is a rarity actually across the board. It says things much more complicated way. However, it probably does it because there's lots of units in Warriors with extra support anyway. So it used to give +1 attack or +1 attack in the second rank.
Yep.
That's all.
Which it still kind of does, but now there's some extra parts to it.
Yeah, so the Bearer's unit gains extra support 2, which is basically what that is. Large models gain extra support 4.
Well, that's fine because they used to have 3 supporting attacks anyway.
So. Models that already had extra support X ignore that instance and gain extra support 4 instead. Multiple instances of Zealot banner do not stack, which is good. Really interesting concept. We're trying to break the game, obviously, as we look through these, and we are seeing things like Chosen, for example, that have extra support 3. Would change that to extra support 4. Now we've desperately checked the rule book, and we've checked this and all sorts of rules. As far as we can see, and please correct us if we're wrong, or if it's not meant to be doing this. Chosen have 4 attacks in the second rank and 3 attacks in the first rank.
Yeah,
because of this rule.
Ignore weapon upgrades and everything, because obviously that ends it slightly. But
paired weapons would change that, but
that's really interesting.
Really interesting. So, I'm sure it's been done like this for a reason, to allow it to be able to be used on every single unit, maybe. But overall, probably a good thing.
Chosen are going to be really crazy. I mean, if you take a unit of 10 Chosen with paired weapons, that 10 models has 40 attacks with this banner.
There you go. So let us know if we are wrong on that. We've got the wrong bit, but we're seeing a few little combos that would love Zealot's banner for sure. The other changes in the item section notes, so all the points are all the same. The biggest biggest 2 changes, I guess. Icon of the Infinite can be taken on core units.
Yes.
And Wasteland Torch cannot be taken on core units. Interesting change. Nice to have Hellfire on some core units. That's definitely going to be some interesting. I can see MSU core liking that, actually. Bit gutted about the Wasteland Torch, because
that was just for you.
It was for me, I think. Yeah, I definitely used that on my I used it on my old Sloth Warrior brick, so that's definitely changed. It's decent. Maybe Chosen Knights would like Strider Ruins, and some other things, maybe Warrior Knights, whatever. So that will change up who it can go on, and maybe some banner priority. Although we do have a feeling that might Wasteland Torch has a lot to compete with now. So that's
because you're not putting it in core, I think it's less likely. There's other things you would put on your special choices. So
Letter of Souls has got cheaper, 50 points rather than 65, so that's interesting. I thought it was quite a good item, actually. But it's lost dominant as well. Pretty good overall from that point of view. On to the Herald, and the Herald has got way cheaper, 80 points cheaper.
Yeah.
However, it's lost movement, so it used to be 816, now 714. It's gone down from 3 spells to 2 spells. And the spells have somewhat changed. Brand of the Dragon, it does give you light troops because you can fly, I think.
Sure. Yeah, there's a few profiles that have fly and light troops listed, and they don't need it. So that's
but the fly is less, so you're not. It's the same as your profile now, but 714 rather than 816. The Sorcerer Immortals gain channel as well. That's quite cool. But obviously the spell is less. So 80 points for a bit of movement and 1 less spell, basically.
Yeah, it's probably about right in terms of the cost that it's been reduced by. Whether people will see it as a shame, it might be that they're trying to encourage people to spend less and use it more.
Yeah, I quite like it, actually, at a lower price. And I do have a feeling that Sorcerer Immortal is going to become the auto, and you have that and something else now, because Mark for Doom and Grave Calls are 2 very, very good spells, especially with the Grave Calls increase to range.
On top of Veil Walker as well, which obviously is part of Sorcerer Immortal.
And obviously with Veil Walker, you've now got a channel, so you now get 6 more Veil tokens across the game to use your Veil Walker. So
on a channel 2 model. So
it was already a decent one to choose of the manifestations. I feel like it's auto now. I feel like you that's become the best one for sure.
Well, the thing is, you're still selecting them during spell selection, so I don't think it's amazing, auto in the fact that you. I think it would be auto maybe if you had to pick it at the start before the battle began. But I think because of when you pick it,
they're all very good. They're all very good, and the fact that you can do it before. So this model is already good. It's already quite expensive, but it's got cheaper, and you've lost a pip of movement for it. So I think overall it's pretty worth it in my opinion. But yeah, has lost a bit. Chosen Lord has gone from 295 to 300. As we said, the main change is all the favors across the board. So envy 45 to 30, gluttony 15 to 20, greed 15 to 10, pride has gone up, sloth has gone down, wrath has gone up actually because you don't get the +1 to hit against it. So and it's agility already high. So yeah, not too bad. Skywheel, that's actually quite hard to say. Has gone from 65 to 30 though, so that's pretty nice. From terms of that, just never use, because why would you? When you've got all the other stuff, like the War Dares, for example, is just so good. But it's now trying to be priced competitively. So there's that. In the gifts, the Demonic Wings has gone from 70 to 50, which is a pretty big drop for one of those. So if you want your Fly 816,
that's an interesting one that it's left in light troops.
Yeah, though. I know. I think that's a typo.
Actually. Yeah, possibly.
That'll be in the hotfix. So that's an interesting one. Dark Prelate has changed its spell. It used to be Spectral Blades and Hand of Glory, but it's exactly the same.
Yeah, they put that in blue.
Spectral Blades has changed.
Is that because Spectral Blades is the #1 spell?
It's not a #1 spell, but no, it's just said the same. Actually, tried to fool me, and it did. Well done.
Yeah.
In terms of Doomlord, it's the same. Sorcerer is the same, but the Wasteland Dragon can only be taken on a master rather than general. So you used to be able to general it up with an adept on a Wasteland Dragon. No more. Stop. No more.
Yeah.
The Sky Sidewheel has changed. Again, got cheaper from 55 to 45 though, as well. So they want more Scythe Sky Wheels, because I can't
just
say
to make you say it.
Yeah, annoying. Feldrick Ancestor, there's no change whatsoever. The blue text just it's not even a rewording. They've just moved it afterwards. Someone's it baffles me sometimes when they do this. Someone's complained that was before rather than after. Presumably because you're like, well, does that mean that you get both? Think about it. Who cares? Anyway, don't change.
Move on.
Yeah.
Don't get upset by it. Yes. Don't get upset.
Oh, it's good. Why?
Calm down. Have a wine gum.
Yeah, my beer's falling out. Blimey. That's probably why I'm getting edgy. In terms of the mounts, they've all stayed the same. I'm hoping until we get to the dragon, who, has changed to coincide with a lot of other dragons. The 714 movement is a standard for any sort of dragon. In this regard, though, the meeting of minds, which is the rule that all dragons have that puts them towards the thing, the army that they're in, gains +4 march rate when you're using them on the ground. So
don't jump over people, but
it's not a jump.
Go further.
So you can go 18 inches potentially with your march. It's all right. It's not great.
Were you able to take more than one mount per army before? There's a blue 0 to 1 there.
In terms of the Wasteland Dragon, there was no
restriction before.
Which is interesting.
But I suppose the restriction is within the Legendary Beast part. So
it is. There is that official restriction now.
Mm-hmm.
On to core, and the only change you have for the warriors is the favors.
Yep. With a similar sort of
so gluttony's got up by 1 point, greed down by 1 point, lust down by 1 point.
You're going to get sick of saying it.
Sloth is down by 4 points. That's
a big reduction.
It is quite big. Sloth was huge. So it's that charge that you're losing. Or only do it
the
in
9.9 movement.
Yeah, so which is really interesting. Wrath has gone down from 7 to 5 as well, so down by 2 points. Over to the Fallen, and they are exactly the same. I thought I saw blue there. Barbarians are the same, and that takes us from core to special. The Barb Horsemen are the same. Warhounds are the same. Warrior Knights, again, it's just a favour.
Although these are the ones that gain from the additional Swift Stride.
And it's only an extra 1 to what you used to get. So it used to, Swift Stride just cancelled out and you got the rerolls to 1.
But this is a huge buff.
So I think as Envy is looking really nice on them, actually. You have Envy, which is 5 rather than 4. Gluttony, which is 4 rather than 3, so that's gone up because that's a general wide thing. Greed, they're the same. Lust is 8, used to be 12, so that's an interesting one. That's the Feign Flight, but that's because you lose Strider. So
Strider,
fair enough. Pride is down to 1 from 2. Sloth is down from 7 to 6. And Wrath is down from 8 to 7. So across
interesting.
The board,
if you put a banner of speed on this unit, your movement 9 and double maximize Swift Stride charge.
Yeah, for sure.
That's very takeable.
Yeah,
surely.
I think actually it makes. I mean, the lance is already much better than great weapons, but it makes lances very, very good. I'm
easy
surprised
to make
actually
the use of. Yeah,
that hasn't gone up in potential because 2 attacks each with strength 6 AP3 is very nice on a warrior knight. So
especially if your movement 9 and double Swift Stride.
Exactly, big threat range there. Warrior chariots stay the same. The Chosen, one of my personal favourites in the
really
book. Who would know? But yeah, I mean they've got cheaper, down from 250 to 235 and 50 points down to 45, so that's incredible really for what you get. These extra support 3s is just a switch around, and in terms of the favours, you've got Envy gone down from 9 to 4, so 5, which is a big reduction. Gluttony's gone from 2 to 4, but it's not that much of a increase for that. To increase their strength forever if you win combat.
Yeah, that unit is already scary before that happens. Yeah. But after it happens, you run away screaming.
Yeah, Greed, the Weapon Master one, goes from 13 to 12. Lust stays the same. Pride's still 3. Sloth is 10 down to 6. That's actually pretty good on Chosen now. Wrath doesn't give the agility. Wrath's still the most expensive one at 14, but it is down from 18. So overall, this unit, if you used it before, it's going to be cheaper. Quite drastically, actually. You're probably looking at 50, 60 points for a maxed out unit, which is very, very handy.
I mean, I am just baffled by a unit that is just so iconic across the game, getting so many changes that encourage its use.
Across the board, I don't think they're used a lot because they are infantry, and they're an infantry unit that, so obviously they just lack the movement and can get outmaneuvered a lot. Personally, I don't agree. I think I'm a big advocate for Chosen. I think they're one of the best units, so I'm very happy to see them get cheaper.
I think maybe that skews my perspective because I always have to go against them.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm anti their reduction in price for that reason as well.
For sure, but I mean, great for me, and I think it's to get them.
Encourage others to use
I think
them.
You will see them more.
We keep saying it.
Yeah.
With every points reduction, we say it again.
It's about the third one in a row they've got cheaper, So is what it is. Chosen Knights, again, it's just the favours that change. So Envy from 5 to 8, signifying that is the biggest one. Gluttony used to be 3, now it's 3-point vulnerable. 3 to 3. Say that quickly. Greed is the same. Lust from 6 down to 4. Pride still 3. Sloth from 15 to 13, still really good on them. -1 to wound with all that armor is still pretty good. And Wrath has stayed the same. Makes actually Wrath pretty nice on them. That's one of the ones where you don't really care about the agility. It's nice, but it's the +1 to hit that really hurt the Chosen Knights because of all their armor.
Yeah,
Wrath could be. a nice. It's because it's fairly cheap on them as well, so it's a nice
Really
little
cheap. It's really cheap.
one to have. And it used to be cheap because of the +1 to hit. Now it's not. That's an interesting thing there. Chosen Chariots, again, mechanically exactly the same. It's just in the favours. Envy 20 to 30, Gluttony 10 to 15, Greed stayed the same, Lust 25 to 15, Pride stayed the same, Sloth 60 to 50.
It's interesting that the Chosen Chariot got the memo about rounding numbers to in fives, and every other unit didn't get that.
I know, yeah. Thank goodness there's one. Chimera stayed the same. The Wretched Ones have gone up ever so slightly for extra models. 85 to 90 for extra models. Otherwise, have stayed the same. Still think they're pretty good for what they do. I used them in the last one. I know that from the UK, Tanker uses them quite a bit as well. And people like Matt Pell have been using them for decades as well. So I don't think they've been a decade, shall I say. I don't think they've been changed enough really to change how they're used. Forsworn, haven't seen any change. I'm a bit disappointed at that. I think they could have had a bit.
Disappointed, yeah.
They could have had a bit of love.
I tell you what, they could have just done one thing, and they would have been taken more and changed attacks from 2 to 3, and then I think people might have looked at them again.
Yeah,
2 attacks on these guys is just so horrible. It's just horrible.
For how much you pay for them as well. There's so much in the Warriors book that is good as well. Let's be honest, and they just get crowded out. I think so. That is a shame. Feldrax are now Tool. Would you believe? There you go. I'm sure.
Great.
That's a big change somewhere. There's someone.
Considering they don't have any shooting or magic, I'm not sure. I suppose it's easier to shoot them.
Yeah. Battle Shrine and Flayers are the same. Hellmoor is one of the biggest changes in the whole book in terms of rewording, I think, actually, more than anything. But it has gone from 260 to 300, so I'm probably a little bit wrong there. Some of the stat changes probably warrant that. So it's now 6 to 12 rather than 5 to 12, 5 to 10. It's 6 HP rather than 5, and it's Res 6 rather than 5. I think, from what I've read, the wording has just changed to make it easier.
Sure.
For the gateway mechanic.
It's been a while since I've looked at the Hellmoor rules, actually.
Yeah,
I'm not sure when it changed to this. But,
for anybody not familiar, I mean, it took up a whole page before, and now it's only half a page. So there is that. And what we'll do, we'll read it now. It used to, for anybody not familiar with Hellmoors, it allowed units from the Warriors to teleport basically from different things, and also blow up sometimes for toxic attacks there. But Gateway now, at the start of step 7, mark a point on the battlefield outside the opponent's deployment zone. At the start of each friendly movement phase, if the model is not engaged in combat, you may apply one of the following effects. Mark a single point on the battlefield within 24 of the model with Gateway marker. Before doing so, you may remove any Gateway marker from the battlefield. There can never be more than 4 markers on the battlefield. So if you get to 4, you can place another one, but you have to take another one off, is essentially what that's saying. And you can remove one
if you want to.
The second way of using it, or the second effect you can apply to it, target a single unengaged friendly unit within 6 of the model that does not contain gigantic models, and that is neither fleeing nor shaken. Remove the unit from the battlefield and immediately place it back on the battlefield with special ambush Gateway marker that was not placed during the turn. That's very interesting. If the unit cannot be placed following these rules, it counts as destroyed. So
that's a real gamble. You better make sure you can place them, because if you pick them up ready to put them, then your opponent's like,
chess rules,
you can't
right?
place them. Yeah.
Chess rules. That's it. You're done.
If you touch the model, you've got to move it. Yeah.
But yeah,
that's
so
crazy.
It's taken away the blow up. It's also taken away the, if you travel through it, the toxic attacks that you would take. So much more simplification from that point of view. It's simpler, and it's become much more of a combat threat with the high res, high HP, and movement.
It'll stick around longer.
Yeah. It's still like you put this in the list and change your list building because of it.
Yeah. Your capability is different.
So I quite like that, and it's something quite interesting as well. So it still does what it did before, only a little bit less, and is a bit more combat. Let us know if you think
Lucky Sixes.
Let us know if you think that is too much taken away in terms of what other things you can do with it. Moving on to Forsaken, it is exactly the same. Marauding Giant is the same, just a few like thingy wordings with exclusive and rage.
Yep.
And the Feldrak Enelder is the same. No changes from that point of view. So overall, I mean, we'll move down to the change log because there's quite a few changes in this book. But
they do repeat the changes because it's all to do with the favors mainly.
Yeah, it's all to do with the favors. Get the favors right, and you got it. Otherwise, the chosen are a bit cheaper. The what's he called? The flying
Exalted
Herald dude is a bit different as well. And some other the Helmore is been simplified. But overall,
start taking some sky wheels as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big nerf to them, and they're already a decent army. So I can't see Warriors players being too upset really by this update.
No, a few changes. Every army, every player has got to deal with a few changes here and there with this update, and I think this is more of the same.
Yeah. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Like, share, subscribe if you did, or even if you didn't. Hit the notifications button for plenty more videos to come. Hit us up all on Facebook, on Twitter, and of course the forum, but most importantly YouTube. And we shall see you later.